It has all the ingredients of an exciting election, a closely fought race, and an intense level of political debate in a highly politicized society. We're joined here by members of the two main coalition, Avi Hyman, who's got the Likud ballot right on his lapel, and also Rachel Rembrandt, who's from the Zionist Union of Isaac Herzog and Tzipi Livni. First of all, Avi Hyman, after 6 consecutive years of Benjamin Netanyahu, why should Israelis vote for him again?
Netanyahu is a strong leader for Israel, strong on security, strong on the economy. We face threats from Iran, a potentially nuclear-armed Iran, crumbling states around us, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah, all proxies of Iran. We need a strong Likud, a large Likud, and Netanyahu at its leadership to make sure that those threats don't blow up in our face.
Rachel Rembrandt, why not to vote for Bibi?
Well, because the situation is terrible, after 6 consecutive years in which our social situation is terrible, people don't have a high quality of life, a deteriorating quality of life, and the only thing the Likud party and Netanyahu are interested in is giving us fear instead of giving us hope and real change.
But you must be worried, Rachel, because the pollsters are looking at it and saying it's going to be really hard for the left, the centre-left, to form a coalition, even if your alliance does better than the Likud alliance.
Yes, it is hard, but it is possible. And there's still 17% of Israelis that haven't made up their mind, but they know they don't want Bibi and they don't want the Likud. So there is a chance if people actually vote and make the Zionist camp a strong party, there is a chance to have a coalition of the left.
And Avi, it's being said that the President Rivlin, may ask your two coalitions to form a national unity government. Would you agree to that?
Prime Minister has made it quite clear that a national unity government is not on the table. Only a strong Netanyahu, a strong Likud party can ensure that we stand strong, that unemployment remains the lowest in 30 years, that the price of living continues to go down, and that also just basic utilities, the price of utilities go down. The other option is a weak leadership under Bougie and Tzipi, which will capitulate to every world request and bend and give up the strategic hills of Judea and Samaria to enemy states, a potential terrorist state overlooking 70% of our population. We can't have Gaza in the West Bank. We can't afford to have Isaac Herzog as Prime Minister of Israel.
Rachel, that is a view held by a certain percentage of the population. What do you say to that? People are worried that Isaac Herzog, Bougie as they call them, isn't up to the task.
Well, Bougie has great political experience, and Bougie and Tzipi Livni are, most importantly, will cooperate with the world instead of isolating us from the world. And they will actually try and negotiate peace and try to change the situation instead of having a war here every 2 years. So the truth is that our situation now is much more dangerous and under a situation where we keep hearing threats and fears.
Do you agree that with Mr. Netanyahu that Iran and a nuclear Iran is the greatest danger to Israel?
Absolutely not. The greatest danger to Israel is the failing leadership of Israel, of Benjamin Netanyahu. And the truth is that people in their day-to-day lives don't feel Iran. And Iran is sanctioned by the world, and there is progress in this issue. It is definitely not the highest fear.
And Avi, of course, Mr. Netanyahu, who's always talking about the fears and the dangers confronting Israel, is now saying the greatest danger is that he may lose. Are you worried in these last hours?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, when thousands of missiles are raining down on us from Gaza and potentially the West Bank, if we were to give up land, as Isaac Herzog wants to, and split Jerusalem, that is the threat. The threat is not the price of cottage cheese, with all due respect. So it's either Netanyahu or capitulation. I will choose Netanyahu, and I hope that all Israelis will.
Well, unfortunately, it does come down to the price of cottage cheese and also the conflict with the Palestinians. Avi, you've made it clear there can't be a national unity government. Rachel, what do you say to Avi?
Well, it's also not in our interest to have a national unity government, and our leaders have said the same as the Likud leaders, that we want to lead the situation. We have the solutions, and we want to have the opportunity to actually create change here and to create hope.
Well, not long now. Rachel Rembrandt, Avi Hyman, thank you. May the best man or woman win in the next Israeli election. Thank you very much for joining us here in Jerusalem as the debate goes on. The polls, no more polls are being conducted now. The last one was on Friday, and it put the center-left coalition, the Zionist Union as it's called, just narrowly ahead, depending on which poll you look at, by anywhere from 2 to 4 to 6 seats. But every day that passes, Israelis are making up their mind about who is the best person to lead Israel forward. And it being Israel, they're already saying, well, when this election is over, there'll be another one in 2 years' time. But even if there is, the next 2 years will, of course, be consequential, not just for Israel, but for all of its neighbors. We're going to have live coverage for the next few days here in Israel and from capitals around the region and beyond. But for now, that's all from us here in Jerusalem.
Good to see you, Lise. Thanks so much. Lise Doucet there, our Chief International Correspondent. Do stay with us here on BBC World News.